Good morning, people. So look, y'all. Adrien the Problem Broner was scheduled to fight Omar Figueroa Jr. on August 20th. Yes, that's this Saturday in Hollywood, Florida, right? However, 2 days ago, Adrien Broner pulled out of the fight. He decided that he can no longer go on with the fight due to him having some struggles with his mental health. Now, recently, we've seen a couple of boxers start to talk about mental health and how it affected them in fight preparation and so on and so forth. And so you got some guys who believe it and some guys who think that other fighters are just lying about it, right? So Adrien Broner's opponent, his former opponent, the guy he was scheduled to fight, Omar Figueroa Jr., he called BS on the whole thing. He basically said Adrien is just undisciplined. He's just childish in a lot of his behavior and antics, and he wasn't ready for the fight strictly due to that. Not because of no mental health, and he feel like it's just basically a slap in the face. I'm paraphrasing. He basically feels like it's a slap in the face to people who actually struggle with mental health issues, right? And some people are like, well, Adrien just scared to lose. He know he's not ready for this fight. He's scared to get beat in this fight, so on and so forth. And I like to challenge that. I don't think Adrien Broner is he's not afraid to lose. He's lost several times before. AB will literally fight anybody. He will fight your daddy, my daddy, your uncle, your cousin, your little cousins, your cousins, all in a string of a week. He don't give a damn. He's proven that. He's never been a guy to duck no fight regardless of what. That's never been the case, right? I just think personally, Adrien Broner is struggling to find his identity outside of being the problem. He's struggling to find his identity outside of being AB, right? Just think about where Adrien Broner's career was going not a couple of years ago, when I want to say about 2013, right before the Marcos Maidana fight, 2012, 2013, Adrien Broner's career was skyrocketing. He was young, about 24, 25 at the time. He was ascending, and so 23, 24, he was ascending on so many different levels. People were looking at him as the next big thing, which is why he was given the nickname The Problem. He was hard to defeat, he had fast hands, he was hard hitting. He was just a superbly skilled young fighter. However, he started to ascend, and again, like a lot of dudes in the hood, I think Adrien started to sometimes overestimate himself and underestimate opponents. And he went up in there with Marcos Maidana, and I think December of 2013, and he got beat. He got dropped several times, and a lot of people feel like he got embarrassed that night because Marcos Maidana, people thought Adrien was going to go in there and just walk down Marcos Maidana and whoop Marcos Maidana's ass. However, it was the latter. I give Adrien credit for that fight due to the fact that he kept fighting, he kept getting up, kept fighting, and he jumped up 2 weight classes to fight Marcos Maidana. However, people don't look at that. They look at that young, brash young dude talking shit, talking crazy, and they looking like, nah, man. You talk all this mess, you talk all this crazy talk, you do all this taunting, all these antics, you supposed to deliver. And when he didn't deliver that night, that changed the trajectory, that changed the whole landscape of his career. After that fight, Adrien experienced what a lot of dudes in the hood that are talented go through. And I meant to say it earlier in the video. Adrien was a dude who was from the hood through and through, a hood dude all the way through. But he was superbly talented, and he used his skills and his gifts to become a multi-millionaire, which is what a lot of dudes in the hood strive to be. However, when you got the braggadocious demeanor like Adrien and so on and so forth, and you got that type of flair to you, the moment you lose, everything gonna change. Even though I would say this, even if he wasn't braggadocious, the fact that he's from where he's from, and a lot of people were around him strictly because of the antics and how he was moving, the moment he lost, Adrien saw people scatter like roaches from around him. People didn't want to stand next to him. He was around all the rappers, going on tour with all the rappers, standing next to him. The moment he lost, the rappers didn't want to be seen with him no more. They didn't want to be his friend. They wasn't going to any more of his fights after that. He lost a couple of fights after that. Lost to Sean Porter. People thought he wasn't that dude no more, so they were afraid. They didn't want to stand next to him no more. He wasn't the cool guy to stand next to in pictures anymore. And Adrien felt that. He felt the brunt of that and like, damn, all these people that was around me, that was loving me, they don't want to stand next to me no more. They don't want to come to the fights. They don't want to walk me out to the fights no more. They look at me like a joke. And I think Adrien struggled to deal with that. He struggled to find his identity outside of being this mega star in boxing because after that Marcos Maidana loss and some losses he took after that, he was never seen as a mega star in boxing anymore. He's a draw because he can talk shit and he can talk crazy and talk fly at the drop of a dime. He can crack jokes and all of that, and he's just super entertaining. But nobody looked forward to an Adrien Broner fight and saying, AB gonna whoop this dude ass. Nobody's felt like that in a long time. After the Marcos Maidana fight, he got gun shy. He didn't want to engage that much and let his hands fly like he used to. And that became a problem for him in several fights after that. Mikey Garcia fight. What's my boy? Sean Porter fight. Those were problems for him. You know, and then when he fought Manny Pacquiao, he was especially afraid to get clipped. So he stuck to trying to be a counterpuncher in the ring with Manny, and that wasn't going to work because that's Floyd Mayweather Jr. style, not his. So that wasn't going to beat Manny Pacquiao. You got to apply some pressure to Manny, but to apply pressure, you're going to have to get hit. And I think Adrien was like, he don't want to get hit as viciously and ferociously as he was hit against Marcos Maidana. So he tended to shell up at times. And I think that after, like, again, when he took that loss to Marcos Maidana and those rappers stopped wanting to be around him, his pride and his ego took a hit. I'm sure dudes in the hood back at home in Cincinnati was saying he wasn't nothing. AB a joke, he ain't this and he ain't that no more. You got people on social media clowning him out every single day of the week. And Adrien goes on with his life like everything is okay. But I know he's struggling with it. That's why we just saw him at Errol Spence Jr.'s fight against Jordanis Ugas, pissy drunk. Could barely stand up, right? Drunk on several occasions. Getting into wild, outlandish antics in casinos and so on and so forth in Vegas and all that. Just going wild and going crazy because I think his life has been turned topsy-turvy because he just never imagined his career going like this. He's 33 years old now. He's not a spring chicken. He's not a young guy anymore. 10 years ago, you couldn't have told Adrien Broner his career was going to go like this. 10 years ago, you would have thought that he would be in a position of like a Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence, or even bigger. You know, you would have thought, hey, he could be in a position like a Canelo Alvarez. And I'm not talking about fighting in that weight class, but, you know, being a superstar in boxing, some people thought, right? But the more I saw Adrien fight, I knew he was very talented, but I knew that Adrien was not Floyd Mayweather Jr. the more I saw him fight, even when he was winning. When he had close decisions against guys like Paulie Malignaggi. And he had some problems with Ponce de Leon a little bit, right? And I saw that he wasn't Floyd. I saw that for a fact. But I still thought that he was immensely talented. I think it was Ponce de Leon I think he struggled with, I think. Yeah, but I knew he was immensely talented to still become a multi-weight champion, to still be a champion in boxing for sure. But if you couldn't tell him his career was going to go like this. And I think he's struggling to deal with that. His career is in the rear view, and he's not the big name he used to be. And people back at home, I'm sure, is reminding him of that. When he gets on social media, he puts up anything. People in the comment section telling him he ain't this and he ain't that. And Adrien is a guy who reads those comments. I know that for a fact. I'm sure, I don't know it for a fact, but I believe he is. I think that he puts off an energy to let you know that he reads those things. Especially when he's talking crazy to Dan Raphael. Not Dan Raphael. What's the guy's name? Golly. Oh my God. Not Dan. It might have been Dan too. It was Dan. But what's the other one's name? Al Bernstein. Talking crazy to Al, you know, and all of that because he's seen some stuff Al may have wrote on Twitter or something like that. It lets me know he pays attention to everything. But, you know, he's struggling with not being the guy that he used to be. And that's happens to a lot of guys in the hood. I'm sure it happened, like, we see all these mega, like, especially basketball players and football players. When they used to be that guy and they not that guy no more, they have a hard time dealing with that. So they go back to the hood where they rose above everybody else so it can still look like they winning, right? So they can still get some praise and accolades. But after a while, that dies down in the hood. Yeah, you got more money than them, but they still looking at you like you're a failure in some of their eyes because you didn't do this and you didn't do that because you're not undefeated, which is very unfair, or because you didn't pan out the way they thought you were going to pan out, which is unfair. It's unfair to do that to people, but it happens, right? It happens in the hood. Oh man, you ain't turned out to be who we thought you was going to be. You didn't turn out to be Floyd Mayweather Jr. What you coming around here flashing all this money for? You ain't fighting like Floyd was, still fighting at an all-time high in your 30s. What you doing out here? What you trying to stunt and be cocky with us for? You ain't that dude you used to be. And I'm sure Adrien hears it all the time. And it causes him to go into a sort of depression where he sulks, he drinks, he becomes overweight, he balloons up in weight, he probably eats any and everything, just becomes very, very undisciplined due to the fact that he's mentally, it's just hard for him to deal with it. Now, I want to get to what Gervonta Tank Davis tweeted. Because Tank tweeted, boxers got to stop using mental health shit to get out of stuff. Yo ass just a bitch. And he tweeted that right after Adrien Broner, it was announced that Adrien Broner was pulling out of the fight. And so everybody assumed, okay, he talking about AB. He throwing shots at his old homeboy, AB. Right? And then Gervonta came out and said that wasn't about AB. His stuff different. I wasn't talking about him. But Gervonta, you got to understand timing. When you tweet something like that, right after Adrien announces he's pulling out of a fight due to mental health, who do you think everybody gonna think you talking about AB? Of course. That's common sense. Everybody's gonna think you talking about AB. I would. I thought it. Right? So what? You shouldn't even tweet something like that if you're not talking about Adrien Broner, because the timing is terrible. Because if he was, I said, oh hell no. I was gonna get on Tank ass like Tank bogus as hell. He wrong. Because Adrien is the one that took him to Floyd Mayweather Jr. Adrien Broner brought Tank to Floyd, which helped to change Tank's whole entire life. Now, Tank had the boxing skills for sure, but Adrien bringing Tank to Floyd, that's what put him in the driver's seat to make all the bread he making right now. When I love Tank, when Tank ain't even fought like the same type of opponents that Floyd Mayweather was fighting at his age, and he's still making hella bread. Even though I still think Tank will beat majority of the young dudes. I got Tank beating Teofimo. I got Tank beating Ryan Garcia. Him and Devin Haney is a toss-up to me, right? But Shakur is as well. But I still think at this age, Tank would beat Shakur for sure. I think that Shakur would be a problem for him without question. But I think that he'll figure it out and he'll hurt. He might end up hurting Shakur with a shot that I don't think Shakur may be ready for at this point of his career. Still think Tank is immensely talented. But Tank, the reason you making this big money without fighting them big name opponents that Floyd was fighting is because you got taken to Floyd Mayweather. You got taken to Floyd Mayweather Jr. by Adrien Broner. So I'm like, I hope you ain't talking about AB. But it's just bad timing with this. But it became a thing where Ryan Garcia responded, and it seemed like, okay, he could be talking about, Ryan Garcia or whatever, but it was just terrible timing. Don't tweet that about your mans, especially if that's y'all boy. You going through training camps with him and all this and all of that. Nah, that's tasteless. And Tank got to know about timing when he says shit. They got to cut that out. But hoping for the best for Mr. Adrien Broner. Hope he gets his career together. He needs counseling. He needs counseling immediately to help deal with the trauma of him not achieving what he always achieved of dreaming in the sport of boxing. He needs some counseling to get through that. To let him know it's okay. You still are a millionaire guy. You made a lot of money. You changed your family's life, your lady's life, your children's life. You still can get out here and fight and make you some money. You're still a draw because of the way you talk. You're not going to be selling out pay-per-views and nothing like that, but you're going to still be able to put some asses in seats just because of the way you talk crazy, right? And you can still fly high on that and still make you some good little paper. And hopefully you can string you some wins together and get in some type of title contention once again. It's a little late in his career, but hey, who knows? Who knows, man? But wishing the best for Mr. Adrien the Problem Broner. Machiavelli Mills TV, I'm out. Peace.